Hello everybody and welcome to the Sherman College of Chiropractic Lyceum. We're super excited to be kicking off this event with you. My name is Dr. Shawn Dill, and on behalf of the board and the president of Sherman College, Edwin Cordero, and all of the faculty and staff, we would like to welcome you to Lyceum. Although we know that times are slightly different, and of course, we would prefer to be with you all in person so that we could share a handshake and of course a hug, a kiss on the cheek, and embrace and celebrate all that we have in common through Sherman College. Unfortunately, the circumstances, the politics of the world today have precluded us from being together, and so we're still excited that we're going to be able to present to you this online edition of Sherman Lyceum. And I personally am thankful that you are here watching this with me. We know that we have a ton of speakers and there's tons of choices for you to be getting your information. Well, that's just a reflection of all of the great work that the team here at Sherman College has done to put together, even though we are online, to put together an incredible program. Also, we want to thank all of the sponsors who continue to support Sherman College, as well as the speakers who have continued to support. And even though I'm sure they wish that they could be with you as well today, I'm sure that you're in for an incredible, incredible treat. Like I said, my name is Dr. Shawn Dill, and I am going to be talking to you today about navigating and doing business after COVID-19. Now, you may know me from a myriad of different things that we do together, principally our franchise of upper cervical offices called the Specific Chiropractic Centers, 16 offices that span the United States doing knee, chest, solid headpiece, upper cervical specific exclusively in these offices. As well, you might be familiar with our work in Chiro Sushi, a company that we recently acquired that is the media arm of what it is that we do, helping chiropractors to leverage both big media as well as smaller outlets, all the way to social media in an effort to disseminate your message. And of course, maybe you've heard of Billion Dollar Mission, our lead generating company that is leveraging a retail concept of the loss leader to drive an unprecedented amount of traffic directly into chiropractic offices around the country, and in fact, around the world. The mission there is to help 1,000 chiropractors to create $1 million practice. And then of course we have Black Diamond Club. Over 670 service providers who come together through the Black Diamond Club, which is our monthly membership group to support each other first and foremost, but then also to work together and figure out strategies to bring a big message to the world, helping you to reach more people, make a bigger impact, and create the lifestyle that you deserve. And then finally, we have our latest project, which is called Katana. This is a patient relationship platform. Think about your EHR, your old antiquated notes and billing system meets Infusionsoft, meets your texting system, meets your reputation management system, meets ClickFunnels, your funnel, landing page, sales page system, all under one hood. No longer do you have to outsource or pay for additional add-ons and plugins into your old antiquated EHR, because Katana allows you to put everything all under one roof. And in fact, some of you may recognize me for my work with Lacey Book, that's my wife, my better half. She's the one that speaks a lot in chiropractic circles, leads a phenomenal group online called This Girl Is on Fire. I encourage you to jump onto Facebook and check that out. Lacey's delivering some amazing content there. And by the way, you don't have to be a female to join This Girl Is on Fire. It is a female entrepreneur group, but one of the things that we found was interesting was, what about the idea of delivering you content and entrepreneurial and business concepts through the voice of a female? You know, so many people say, well, we need more females more female leaders. And I agree to an extent, but I also believe that there's something to be said for males learning from females because, look, face it, you know that there's times that are lessons in life that maybe your mother delivered differently than, say, your father figure, and it just hits, it lands better. And so check out This Girl Is on Fire on Facebook, and you can get a feel for the great work that my wife Lacey is doing. We also have our law that we've written. A lot of you may know of me. I get a lot of inquiries for the work that we did in Costa Rica. Now, I graduated Logan College in 1995 and then immediately moved down to Costa Rica, where I was the author of the Ley Orgánica 7912. The Ley Orgánica del Colegio de Profesionales en Quiropráctica, the law that established chiropractic as a profession in Costa Rica. We're super proud of this work that we've done, and this is the law that to this day still regulates the practice of chiropractic there. Chiropractic in the hands of those now who are running this particular association, this particular group, and establishing the regulations and guidelines. And then again, some of you may recognize my name from our work in our Amazon best-selling book, None of Your Business, a winning approach to turn service providers into entrepreneurs. You can acquire this book on Amazon, or if you would like, I would like to make that book available to all of you who are watching right now. I'll make that available to you for free. All you have to do is go to www.blackdiamondclub.com/free book. So I'll put that link up there for you. And so if you go to www.blackdiamondclub.com/free book, you pay the shipping and handling because there's literally thousands of you watching this broadcast today. So we couldn't possibly send out free books to everybody. So if you pay your shipping and handling, I'll pay for the book and we'll get that out to you. And along with that, if you visit this link, along with that, we're going to throw in 90 days of Black Diamond Club membership for free. So again, today we did not come to you to sell you things. Well, you have to pay, well, that's not even me. You've got to pay the USPS, the Postal Service, to get your book. But I'm going to give you a copy of the book, and I'm going to give you 90 days in Black Diamond Club because I have a mere hour with you this morning. And I'm going to go through some concepts and look, frankly, you might want some help implementing. And if you jump into Black Diamond Club, we're going to be there helping all of our members. Again, over 670 members that are implementing these strategies and getting them up and going post-coronavirus. And what I've been saying, and I honestly believe this, is that this is a true opportunity for us to build your business back bigger and better than it was before. But you need to be very careful. One of the things that I'm seeing is that a lot of the so-called business groups, and really what they end up being are groups or conglomerations of service providers. So you have the group of chiropractors, the groups of dentists, the groups of lawyers. And as we explained, we navigate different service professions, but the groups generally are acting the same, and what they're sort of doing is launching reactivation campaigns. So I'm going to walk you through sort of a little bit of a quick timeline. Again, our time is short with each other today, but I want you to understand that this process that I'm explaining to you is not about reactivating. I know that the majority of you have suffered some degree of drop-off in your patient volume and or your revenue. And a lot of you, because of that, are anxious to see if you can recover that. But I want to challenge you to think about, what if it were possible to not only recover, but also to exceed, to build something bigger than what you had in February of 2020. Gosh, that seems so long ago, right? February of 2020, just a few short months ago, when things were booming. We were at the peak of probably the greatest economy that this country, the United States, has ever seen. And then all of a sudden, boom, in a matter of weeks, the entire world has been forced to rethink almost everything that they have known to be true. Now, I'm going to walk you through some facts, some data, some statistics, but one of the things that I want you to understand is that this presentation is built on one primary theory. This is the supposition, and the rest of this I'm going to present to you will be incredibly factual and data oriented. Now, my spin on this also comes from an accumulation of mentors, guidance, phone calls, advice, counsel from a whole host of people. First and foremost, my coach and mentor is Jay Abraham. You may have heard him. He works with high-profile clients such as Tony Robbins, Damon John, and Dave Asprey, amongst a whole host of others. And so he has been our coach to Lacey and I for the past 3 years, and he's been giving us some critical data and information that is forming our strategy. We also know that we work with people like Eric Thomas, the hip-hop preacher, Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, Chris and Jen Winfield from Super Connectors Media, who run our publicity and procure our media engagements. We talk to people like Dave Steck, Philip Stutz. These people are going to be mentioned in today's presentation as well. You know, relational capital. So two main premises. The first is that relational capital is going to be the currency of tomorrow. That you know that we are impacted economically and financially pretty much across the board. We can talk about statistics about which demographics or populations are affected the most. The top 1% typically in a recession are going to lose 30% of their net worth, right? And then trickling down from there, we have unemployment numbers at all-time highs. And so we have all of these things that are happening. And so the first thing is as currency, as capital decreases, relational capital and its value increases. I'm telling you, relationships will never be more important in your life than they will be over the next 30, 60, or 90 days. And the second premise is what I am calling the Day of Reckoning. And I want you to know that I'm going to present you a very brief overview. Inside of the Black Diamond Club, as soon as the coronavirus was a thing, in fact, you can go back onto our Facebook page and see our page and see the Black Diamond Club Facebook page and see videos where we were talking about this in early March, before it was actually a thing that was causing panic or concern. And we were talking about the impact that this was going to have on your life and particularly on your business. Now from there, we have accurately predicted the peak of the cases being around mid-April. We've also predicted and forecasted a return to normalcy around June 1st. And we've been working towards that since the beginning of March, putting together a plan and a strategy to help our clients to rebound, if you will, and rebuild their business, not rebuild their old business, but again, to rebuild their business bigger and better than it was. And so the second theory here is that once you do return to a sense of normalcy, and there's a lot of discussion about the new normal and what that's going to look like, but this new normal will include what I am calling a day of reckoning. You see, we have isolated our population around the world. I want you to understand the impact of this. This pandemic has affected everyone regardless of your profession, your social stature, and even your economic stature. Everybody has been impacted. In fact, this is one time where in history, where every single man, woman, and child on the planet has felt, in effect, the exact same impact of a world event. There's not much difference between what's happening in your life and what's happening in my life, and what's happening in your life and my life, and what's happening in the lives of famous people, celebrities, athletes, inside and outside of the country that you live. It's pretty much universal. And so as we have been forced into our homes, we have been forced to reconsider, if you will, everything that we have thought to be true. You can see it because we have tools like social media, where people are beginning to question the veracity of the statistics, the veracity of the plan, whether or not these plans and these stay-at-home orders have our true best interest at heart. People are questioning their loyalties to certain brands. You're seeing movements away from cable onto online streaming services. You're seeing a proliferation of things like the Peloton as people are shifting their loyalties and moving around. And for you, one of the major changes that is beginning to occur is that people are beginning to question medicine. They're beginning to wonder whether or not the medical establishment has their best interest at heart. And as with anything, this provides you an incredible opportunity to grow not only your business, which of course I'm concerned about, but also collectively as chiropractors to grow our impact. But this is only true if we do it right. And frankly, we have a terrible history of seemingly finding a way to shoot ourselves in the foot every time there is an opportunity to make a massive impact. So let's talk about our agenda for today. I want to go through some data and facts with you. I want to present to you a game plan going forward, and I want to talk about the light at the end of the tunnel. I want you to understand, though, as we begin, that in times like these, now I'm sure that the majority of you, this is your new normal. This is where you are living. You're living in this new time where you have stay-at-home orders, things like masks, you're cleaning your tables, limiting the number of people in your office. And now this is actually becoming somewhat normal to you. But as we explore what's possible, and especially as we analyze the impact that this has had on your life and your business, it is very easy to get emotional. And when we make emotional decisions relative to our business, typically we are misstepping because we are being reactionary rather than being proactive and looking for opportunities and utilizing discernment. You know, when you are in a state of fight or flight, and I'm sure there will be much discussion about this over the course of this day, hypersympathetic mode. Well, you know that your prospects, your clients, your patients, your practice members are in this hypersympathetic mode right now, the state of fight or flight, and you know that this is destructive to your own well-being. Well, frankly, some of you right now are in that state yourself. And I want to encourage you in this next section to let's just be analytical. Let's talk about data and facts. Well, like I said, this is an unprecedented time. This is a picture of the Las Vegas Strip taken just a few days ago at the airing when you're catching this. On the beginning of Sherman Lyceum, this was just a few days ago, the Las Vegas Strip absolutely barren. Now we have then also a view here of Times Square, taken just a few days ago. Well, this is not what we're used to seeing. Things have radically changed in a short period of time. And I understand your desire to return to a new state of normalcy. But I've got to break it to you, it's not just going to go right back to normal. So let's take a look at some of the data that is available. Now, I spend the majority of my day combing through data in an effort to make analytical and intelligent decisions relative to the multiple businesses that I run, but also relative to the clients that I serve. And again, this is just a super brief overview. Ever since the beginning of March, I have been doing a nightly Facebook Live transmission to the Black Diamond Club, going over the data trends of that particular day and how it impacts our members' business, along with my insights and thoughts relative to the strategy that we're going to outline for you here today on how you can come back and conduct your business bigger and better after the coronavirus pandemic. So we're going to move quickly through some of these, and let's just look at the facts here. This is a line graph of the worldwide cases, and look, the news is that the cases continue to climb. We talk about flattening the curve. But we're still in a worldwide situation. You know, cases are accumulating on a daily basis. But we could make an argument that we are beginning to see somewhat of a plateau. So you'll see there between, say, March 6th, we start to take off and we kind of ramp it up around March 3rd. Around there, we've got sort of at our peak, and then we're not running at the same linear growth rate that we were over that, March 6th to April 6th rate. And so it seems that during the month of April, we seem to have hit somewhat of a plateau. Now, the majority of you, though, are watching us from the United States. And so the bad news here is that the United States continues to lead the world in the number of cases. And look, there's a lot of controversy or discussion about whether or not China has not reported their numbers accurately. But regardless of that fact, the United States has a tremendous number of cases more than any of the other countries. And so, and again, this is not a political discussion. This is not an indictment. This is just a factual data. And again, I guess a few of you would even argue that these facts may be skewed. And I would hand you that. I would concede that to you. But we have to make decisions based off of the numbers that we have. The United States also continues to lead the world in the number of deaths. And again, it is quite a jump from the rest of the world to what you're seeing. And in addition to that, the rate of number of deaths is climbing. It's running away from us. And again, this could seem somewhat morbid. This could seem somewhat negative, but there is some good news. So when we look to see where cases are rising the fastest, and we're talking about the doubling of number of cases, the rate of doubling, we can see that the United States has just a few hot spots. Now, for you guys watching, this is absolutely critical, and because I want you to understand that the information that you're getting, we are presenting information to our members in a geographical way. We want you to understand that there cannot and there will not be a one-size-fits-all approach to just getting back to work, getting back to normal. Obviously, you see people in Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, who never even went on a shelter-in-place order. Nebraska, in some places of Utah, Colorado, Nevada, where it is less affected. Places like New Mexico, Kansas, Oklahoma. And then you see that more on the eastern side of our country, and specifically concentrated around the metropolitan areas, New England, Charlotte, North Carolina. But we see these upticks in South Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia, down in the South, New Orleans, Indianapolis, Detroit, Chicago. These areas are also affected. Minneapolis, St. Paul. So you're seeing that there are specific areas that are more of a hot spot than other. And I'm telling you that you, listening, will have to tailor your approach, your return, based off of where you live. So take a look real quick and identify where you are and see the areas that are more hit or harder hit, and then see the areas that are not hit as much. And understand, please, when you're calling your colleagues and they're in Arkansas and Little Rock and they're telling you, yeah, things are going well, we're not seeing much of a dip, I'm down 15 to 20% in patient volume, and you are in Charlotte, North Carolina, or worse, in New York City or Boston, well, then you should understand why. But at the same time, I know chiropractors, we have a propensity to, sort of be shining object syndrome pursuers. We're just like calling each other, looking on Facebook, trying to swipe and deploy and copy anything that you see that seems to be working, and you're not taking into account where and what geography and what demographic these initiatives are working in. On the next slide, we can see states that are beginning to move back to a state of normalcy, if you will. The green states in a state of partial reopening, the yellow states with orders expiring April 30th, and of course those orders could be extended. And then the orange states are the states that are currently, and of course those could be lifted. Some of them are lifted as of May 1st, and so we have orders expiring April 30th, that's by April 30th. But then you have, May 1st orders that are being lifted. And so some of those orange states are slightly misrepresented. I live in Indiana and Indianapolis. I know that our order lifts on May 1st. And so that's why we're colored orange. Technically, I guess we could be colored yellow. We just missed that cutoff by a few days. But I think, again, important for you to become aware of geography and the financial impacts. Now, I've been saying this for a very long time, but if you are in New England, New York, Boston, Connecticut, Massachusetts, if you're in these major metropolitan areas, New Jersey, Philadelphia, in these areas, you are going to be affected far more The return to normalcy will be different. The political climate and the expectations of the population are different. I will also tell you, I have a piece of data that I did not include in this presentation that looks on, and this is a somewhat scary piece of data, but that looks at cell phone data and rates the states on how well they are doing on social distancing and their stay-at-home orders. And most states, in fact, I think there's no state that gets above a C. So we're not doing very well, but you would see in places like Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Oklahoma, where people are generally, for the most part, even with the shelter in place, generally conducting their lives pretty much as usual, just with minor modifications relative to eating at restaurants and, of course, working. But you have other, on the edges of our country, other places where it is extremely different. California, Oregon, Washington, and New England, where the political opinions and personal opinions of the communities have radically shifted, and people going out are being shunned, and they're looked down upon. And so if you're in those areas, it might not be so popular, even though you're saying, hey, Shawn, read your green books, which I do, but it might not be so popular amongst your community, the people that you serve, to be returning back. I also say that, look, chiropractic serves a very small demographic, and I know that there's a few of you right now saying, well, my patients, my people, they love it that I'm, a rebel, and that I set my hair on fire, and that I do CrossFit, and I eat green smoothies every day. And I get that, but I think that what's happening now is we have an opportunity because of what I mentioned earlier with this day of reckoning, and seeing an entire population begin to question what they believe to be true. We're seeing an opportunity for us to expose our chiropractic message to more and more people who previously were not open to this idea of innate intelligence and the body being a self-healing organism. Well, now they're beginning to wonder, how is it that the coronavirus numbers are going down, even though there is no cure and there is no vaccine? And not only are they wondering this, they're beginning to cheer for it. They're beginning to want it. They're beginning to look at it because they need to get back to work. Now, speaking of work, well, I know that so many of you have been impacted greatly by the financial situation. And in a look at how long will businesses be able to operate under current economic conditions, you can see that 15% report that they are now down to less than 1 month, and 35% between 1 and 2 months. When we add this together, we're looking at approximately 50% of all businesses reporting that they are now on the clock, with 2 months or less until they will be forced to close their doors. Now, unfortunately, this may actually even include a few of you, and our hearts go out to you. Our prayers are with you. I hope that you are watching this, and I hope that you are also understanding that this is not a time to be chasing shiny objects. This is not a time to be getting spread thin. This is a time to be utilizing discernment. You must pick a voice. You must pick a leader. There are plenty of leaders that you are going to hear from over the course of today. And I hope that you will find a mentor, and I hope that you will lock in. You can't do what everybody's telling you to do all at the same time. You need to pick a voice, and you need to take action. Again, if I am that voice for you, I've given you the opportunity previously to get a hold of None of Your Business, read that book, and to join Black Diamond Club for free for 90 days. In 90 days' time, if you are an implementer, you're not spread thin and trying to do 14 other things, I am positive that we can help you to get back on your feet. You just have to be someone that is willing to take action and not be someone that's getting in your own way. Now, on the good news front, though, we do have a percentage of businesses that are able to float for 3 to 4, 5 to 6, 7 to 12. And then we have a bump of businesses that are reporting is just shy of 15% that they're set to go for longer than 12 months. So I got to tell you, coming into this year, we were telling all of our clients that you must begin to get as liquid as possible. One of the problems that we have seen is that this country was buoyed by debt. Many of you are laden in debt, and that is what, in fact, is making it difficult to scratch and claw your way out of this. But If we have a strategy in place and we actually execute, we can make our way out. Now, the next slide, we talk about attitudes, and I'm going to begin to shift here towards attitudes that people are having, because this is going to be very important. Because I talked about, a hunch, an idea, and a theory that people are beginning to shift their attitudes away from what they thought to be true, and they're beginning to question. I'm going to talk about some data that's showing that this is true. It's not just something I made up one night while drinking a bourbon because there was nothing else to do, which, by the way, liquor sales in this country are up over 300% during this time period. So somewhere there's people consuming an awful lot of liquor. And I think that you can see why here on this slide. When asked, these are small business owners, how concerned are you about the spread of the coronavirus impacting your business? Well, 72% now say that they are very concerned. And that is in contrast to 16% just about 1 or 2 months ago. 2 months ago, people weren't very concerned at all. And now look at that shift. Slightly concerned 2 months ago, 37%, and only 6% were slightly concerned, or 6% are slightly concerned today. Sorry, only 6% slightly concerned today. The overwhelming majority of small business owners today are very concerned. Well, I'm sure that many of you fit into this category yourselves, where you're like, yeah, I'm concerned too. But I also want you to understand something. This is playing itself out. And of course, when we're in survival mode, it is survival of the fittest. It's easy to look inward because when you're in survival mode, you're thinking of yourself. But I also need for you to understand, one, there's comfort in numbers. And so knowing that you're not alone. Your colleagues are in the same boat. But two, that your community is also in this same boat. Your community, your other small business owners in your community are also feeling the impact. Now, if they are not able to make it through, so this is the flip side of survival of the fittest, is that your survival actually, I need for you to become acutely aware of this, your survival is actually dependent upon the survival of them. You have to ensure, and man, this is so tough right now, but this is look, this is a chiropractic message to you right now. You have to ensure that the small businesses in your community actually make it through. Why? Well, I'm sure that you are all acutely aware that the number of jobless claims, unemployment claims, is absolutely, look at what is going on, where every week we are adding more and more people. We are approaching, by the time you are hearing my voice, we are approaching 30 million unemployed individuals in the United States. Why is this important? Well, again, because we're talking about the buying potential. And this is affecting people on two levels. On one level, we have all of you who are so proud that you are cash practice oriented. Well, I hate to break it to you, but the cash, the disposable or the discretionary income in your community has all but been exhausted at this point. And others of you are like, well, told you, that's why I take insurance. Well, I also need to tell you that because of the unemployment numbers, the amount of people who are currently uninsured is going up. Nobody is talking about this. And I also want to make you aware, it's beyond the breadth of today's presentation, but the insurance companies are being hard hit due to the coronavirus and due to reimbursements in certain areas like New York City, where their payments have escalated tremendously. Now, if you are an insurance company, a third-party reimburser, and you need to make cuts, you are probably first going to look to make cuts in your staff because that's an immediate, so we're going to see furloughs and layoffs in the insurance industry. But the second thing will be on policy renewals. New policies will be written that will eliminate, listen to me closely, that will eliminate a lot of reimbursable services. And probably very first on the chopping block, unfortunately, will be you. This is one of the reasons why this presentation is so critical, and your involvement in building your business back newer, bigger, and better than before is going to be absolutely crucial to your well-being. And that, again, I want you to understand, is directly related to and hinged upon your ability to have a community that can afford your services. Whether you are cash-oriented or receive third-party reimbursement, your community is going to need to be bolstered and refortified. So your interest in this data should be sky high. Next, I want to talk about the last piece of the data equation here is a piece of data that came out from a good friend of mine. I mentioned him earlier, Philip Stutz, who is the principal at Win Big Media. He partnered with Resonate, and this is unbelievable data. He sent it to me many weeks ago. Since then, he's been featured on the likes of Gary Vee. He's been with Peter Diamandis. He was on Jay Abraham's podcast. He's been making the rounds because this data is incredible. In fact, when he reached out to me, he said, you are one of the first that I'm sharing this with. The first person that I shared this with was Mark Cuban. I was like, well, I'm glad that I'm on the short list there. And I want to invite you to check it out. You can go to winbigmedia.com/COVID. I believe that's the link there. And you are able to download this actual study. I mean, it's very intensive. Give you an idea of the type of data that we're looking at here at Black Diamond Consulting, and that the data that is behind our strategies. Again, we're not just spying on or swiping and deploying what the other chiropractic groups are doing. Frankly, no chiropractic group has ever navigated anything like this to any degree of success. So we're relying on data that is coming out of big companies, big corporations, looking at marketing trends. And when you dive into this, this data here that you're looking at is very extensive, and we're looking at consumer sentiment towards finances, travel, the pandemic itself, politics, all areas of their life. And I want to break it down in this next slide here to the three areas. I think this is the single most important piece of data that comes out of this, are the three key areas where consumers are spending now and, as forecasted, into the future. So I want to let you know something. If you take anything away from today, I've got to let you know that you should, my opinion, based off of data. So this isn't a reactionary thing. This is not an emotional thing. This is not a straight mixer upper cervical thing. This is just, I'm telling you what people are talking about and where the dollars are going. The dollars are falling into three key categories, and they are helping others, safety, and trust. So I would be highly recommending to you that you begin to craft messages, marketing messages that speak into these three areas. And again, frankly, I don't really care what anybody else is saying, any self-proclaimed expert. I'm not saying this as, hey, I have a degree in marketing, or I know. I'm saying this because this is what the data and the research is showing, that people are generally spending in three areas only, and that is helping others, safety, and trust. Well, I want to tell you, you guys are very well positioned. I hope that this makes you feel great about your future and about what's possible, because you help others. You are critical to public safety and well-being. And if you've done a good job, and if you haven't, you can still do a better job going forward of building trust. Now, unfortunately, some of you have done a terrible job of building trust, and you have now fallen into the untrustworthy category, because early on you were beating this drum of this pandemic is fake, it's a conspiracy. Have you seen Q, vaccines, Bill Gates, all of these things? This is why I've always cautioned, and I'm not saying not to have an opinion, not by any means, because of course I have an opinion. I'm talking business here, and I'm talking about a message that will enable you to reach more people, make a bigger impact, and create the lifestyle that you deserve. Now, once you get them in your office, once you have them as a patient, well, of course, at that point, they are far more susceptible and open and willing to learn about your philosophies, your thoughts, the way that you see the world. But I'm telling you now, as a frontline marketing message, I would recommend that you restrict your messages into these three categories. Now, We've had this data, fortunately, because of relational capital, we were able to get our hands on this data with a little bit of a head start. Way back when this started in early March, I designed a 5-phase recovery plan to help our members get out of the situation, to march out of it. And again, like I've been saying, to build their business back bigger and better than it was before. And here are the 5 phases. And I'll break it down for you because, again, for time's sake, we probably could do 2 days on how we're doing this. But I'll tell you a brief overview. If you are not a part of Black Diamond Club, I would get to work on this right away. And I will tell you where we are currently on these phases. So phase 1 is engage. And this is part of a construct that I learned from Myron Golden. Myron is one of our Lacey and I's chief speech or presentation coaches. I know there's a lot of, especially in the chiropractic space, again, you tend to sort of fall into these chiropractic speaker coaches. Myron does not train chiropractors, he trains professional speakers. And one of the concepts that he taught us was this idea of engage the people, empower the people, and educate the people. So understanding that, I mean, that's sort of a platform or a foundation for what we're doing is, and when giving a talk, you want to engage the people, you want to empower them, and then educate them. And I think that that's one of the mistakes that oftentimes chiropractors make. When giving a talk, you just come straight in, sliding into second base, cleats up, educating people. You want to tell facts. You want to just tell them things without engaging them first. You can't tell people facts and things without engaging them and also without empowering them. So stage 1 for us was engaging the people in your community. So again, not on a national level, but inside the community that you serve. Phase 2 was building community, because you have to engage the community. We oftentimes say marketing does not get you new clients. Marketing does not get you new patients. Marketing, what it does is it creates awareness. And frankly, for a lot of you, you had no awareness built. We teach this all the time, in good times and in bad, and it's easy to neglect these things in the good times because you're like, look, I'm getting referrals, my business is okay, or maybe even my business is solid, but you had not built a community. And look, this is not a numbers game. I've heard discussions of who is the most influential chiropractor. Well, and the discussions were how many followers they have. Well, I've never been a follower chaser. Myself, I believe the most influential chiropractors are those that have the deepest Rolodex. I've oftentimes said, you can take everything away from me, just leave me with my cell phone. As long as I have my list of contacts, I can get back in the game fairly easy because I've built tremendous relational capital. My relationships allow me to do the things that we do, and I am able to leverage those. Now, if you've not done that, you need to, and I'm talking on a micro level for you in your community. Who are the contacts? Who are the influencers in your community? You know, again, just having millions of Instagram followers who are not inside of your community is not as beneficial as having thousands of Instagram followers, all of whom are following you and listening to you inside of your community. So once we engaged, we needed to build community. The way that we did this was through a concept that Trey Llewellyn, if you are in the ClickFunnels world at all, you know of Trey Llewellyn. He's built multiple million-dollar businesses. He's our business partner in Billion Dollar Mission, a million-dollar business in its first year. So tack on yet another million-dollar business for Trey. And he spoke at our Black Diamond Club marketing workshop last November and taught us about the concept of getting in front of parades. Now, in building community, the idea is, would you rather be on the sideline watching the parade go by, which frankly, that's how many of you are positioned right now, or would you rather be the marshal? Do you want to get in front of the parade? And so the way to get in front of the parade is to build a community, and you've seen this proliferation, and it's partly because, if you've seen it in chiropractic circles, because of Black Diamond Club, but it's also not a Black Diamond Club concept because it's a Facebook thing, and it's building VIP Facebook groups. You know, you need to have a Facebook page, especially if you're going to be running any sort of advertising, but groups are far more powerful because the content gets noticed and seen far better than on a page. Pages are throttled groups, and especially inside of a group that's disseminating valuable content, group content gets seen. Also, group members can set on notifications if they actually want to see the content that's coming out. So we built our communities inside of engaging and building. You have seen the proliferation of a Black Diamond Club concept. This concept, I do know 100% originated in Black Diamond Club. And this is the idea of a benevolence campaign. Well, Jay Abraham taught us very early on the idea of benevolence. And so we began very early on. In fact, and in the specific chiropractic centers in our franchise, we began doing this before coronavirus. Wow, what a stroke of genius. We were that far ahead of this because this was the plan regardless. I want you to understand that we were headed for a recession. Coronavirus, all it did was it amplified it and it exaggerated it. It brought it on quicker and it made it bigger. But this was all going to happen to some degree. And this is why we were beginning our 5-phase plan. And so we were engaging our communities and we were entering into small businesses, buying gift cards, leaving gift cards there for the community to do what? To engage. And the way we were disseminating the information about where the gift cards were located was in our VIP Facebook groups to incentivize people to join our group so that they would be in the know. We did not do this once or twice. You've seen people swipe and deploy in an effort to shiny object syndrome and do this once. No, we've been doing this weekly, regular intervals, say every Friday, every Thursday on weekly intervals ever since pre-coronavirus. Doing what? We've been building our community by inviting people in so they would be in the know and engaging them so that they were following along. We were doing something else. We were also building and engaging and refortifying the small businesses of our area because I told you earlier, this does not work for you without them. The next step, phase 3, is to inform your community. Like I said, I've been coming nightly into Black Diamond Club to share information. Well, these VIP groups are not a platform for you to talk about chiropractic. What? No, they're groups, they're community groups where we are informing your following about things like what restaurants are doing curbside pickup, what stores are doing curbside pickup, what parks are open, what churches are open, happenings and events, the latest news. And again, it's not conspiracy theory, it's not injecting a political opinion, it's sharing facts and data with a community that needs this information. This is how you then create that engagement because you're providing them with information. They are beginning to see your community as a trusted source. This is a concept that Jay Abraham calls preeminence. So we began to build preeminence, positioning you as the community's most trusted advisor and also positioning you as the community's most benevolent benefactor. Now, we have the majority of our Black Diamond Club members positioned here, and they are well positioned, believe me, to have a massive run as the curtain lifts, as the restrictions lift. A lot of people have been talking about when the starting gate opens. Well, I always said, well, when the starting gate opens, you have an unfair advantage if all of the horses are locked in their padlocks and the gates open and they're starting from standing still and you've already been sprinting around that corner so that when the starting gates open, you are already at full speed. That's why we've been prepping our members all of this time through. And we began in November of 2019 with this process, with this rollout. You can get caught up. It's never too late. It's too late if the gates open and everybody takes off and you're still standing there. The next step, which is where we are now, phase 4, is rally the people. You're going to begin to see all of our Black Diamond Club members begin to rally small businesses in their area. We're not worried about ourselves yet. We're worried about, because I told you, if you come back and you come back strong, but 90% of the small businesses in your community have collapsed, well, then people don't have jobs. And if people don't have jobs, they don't have money and they don't have insurance. And therefore, you are going to be impacted greatly. So we are now in the process of propping up all of the other small businesses in our community. In the Black Diamond Club, we call this hashtag 30 days of rally. I have no doubt that after this, we're going to see more and more groups begin to adopt this with other weird names. I'm sure they're going to call it, I don't know what they're going to call it, launch pads and what. I should just think of all the names that they can use, and I'll put it here because this will be recorded for posterity. But of course, people are going to do it, and of course, we welcome that. Imitation is the most sincerest form of flattery, and so we welcome this. But I want to caution you, if you are involved in groups that all of a sudden just launch with Rally, that just launch with Launchpad, helping small businesses, you've got to call yourself a timeout and you need to roll it back and understand. It's not going to do any good. It's like the one-off, gift card at Taco John's. It's not going to work. And so many people said that. Like, I did a gift card because I saw your people doing it, but I didn't get any new clients. Well, because you didn't understand what we were doing. We weren't trying to get new clients. We were actually creating benevolence. We were positioning. During the coronavirus, the greatest thing that you could possibly have done is position. And unfortunately, for most chiropractors, we haven't been really positioning ourselves. And then the last phase, phase 5, will be rebuild. I'm anticipating rebuild phase beginning on June 1st. More or less, depending on the rollout in your particular stage. Now, rebuild is actually about rebuilding you. Rebuilding what? Well, this has been a time for you also to contemplate and reconsider your business model, your marketing strategies, your sales strategies. We ran a BDC sales workshop with over 700 people with us live. We brought Jordan Belfort in to train our members on sales. We're talking about the way that sales is going to train. You do understand that in the new world, things like virtual consults are probably going to become more of a norm. And you do understand that selling through this format, whether it's with slides or even if you're doing it, if you could bring the camera back on me, just want to show this here, talking to somebody like this into a camera. But in most cases, when you're on Zoom or something, you see, just like in my case, you are below, you're on a monitor. And so you have a tendency to talk like this. And what happens is we lose that eye-to-eye contact. Selling in a virtual world is radically different. And I got to tell you something else. You're going to have to pick up skills for selling over the phone. People are going to be far more cautious about face-to-face interactions post-coronavirus. We've been prepping our members to have these skills, and I want you to begin to contemplate and consider increasing your skills. There's lots of great sales trainers in this profession, and I want to encourage you to find them. We would love to have you at Black Diamond Club, but there's other groups like Close for Chiro and other groups that teach you great sales strategies. I just want to make sure that you are aware that the old school, day 1, day 2, sitting in front of each other, those days may be over. You must be able to adapt. And that's my last thing for you. Conducting business post-coronavirus is going to be a real test of your ability to adapt. And isn't that what chiropractic is all about after all? Innate soul function, innate intelligence's sole function is to adapt. Adapt what? Universal forces. Well, in a lot of ways, this pandemic, the economic crisis, the stay in place, shelter in place orders, they're all universal forces, and universal forces tend to be destructive. And now we're going to see a real test, and of course it's not of your innate intelligence because that's going on inside, but we're going to see a test of your ability as a person, as a business, and as a profession collectively to adapt. And you know the saying, adapt or die. These are critical times. And I don't want to be doom or gloom because I frankly do not think it is doom and gloom at all. You see, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and no, it's not a train. There are glory days ahead for those of you who actually are able to adapt. You see, fundamentally at its core, yes, the rest of the day today, learning about chiropractic, its philosophy, its science, and its art, at its core is not going to be changed or impacted at all by the coronavirus. What's going to change is our ability to communicate and our ability to transact the business side of chiropractic. And those of you who get it right, oh, you're in for something great. You are going to make a massive, massive impact on your community and your world. In conclusion, we believe that recognition feeds the soul. We've learned this from many mentors of ours. And I want to recognize Dr. Jillian. She has worked tirelessly. Can you imagine putting together an event that you had planned on having live with hundreds of participants, registrants, plus your vendors, your speakers, coordinating after events, after parties, presidential luncheons, all of this, alumni get-togethers, and all of a sudden you have to shift. And in a matter of months, you must make the program available entirely online. Hats off to you, Jillian. Love and appreciate all that you are doing to serve this profession. Also, we want to recognize Dr. Edwin Cordero. You know, I serve on the board at Sherman College, and I want to say that from my perspective as a board member, I have been so impressed with Dr. Cordero's leadership. This is not easy. And in fact, when this whole thing began, I texted him and I said, this is going to be a true test of your leadership. We're going to find out. I mean, yeah, the philosophy and the principles, yeah, that's great. But now we're going to see. Now we're going to see the true test of a man. And I got to tell you, your president, Dr. Edwin Cordero, has passed that test with flying colors. Listen, it's a thankless job. Yes, he gets paid, but so do you. I want to encourage you right now, if you're watching this, please, right now, to reach out to Jillian and Edwin, send them a note of thanks. And also, I want to encourage you to two more things. One, I want you to think about, especially if you are a Sherman College alumnus, I want you to think about, and even if you're not, but I want you to think about those people who played a major role in your chiropractic career, your education, people who served as mentors. Now is a great time, right now, because you're online, to take a moment and write a couple handwritten thank you notes to people who have touched your lives. Because we're all sort of in this pause, this halftime break, if you will. And we're about to go back into action full force. Take this opportunity to recognize some people in your life, because recognition does feed the soul. Lastly, I want to encourage you to recognize yourself. I recognize you. I honor you. I thank you for your time here. I believe in you. Please do not allow this to be an opportunity where I believe more in you, that I believe more in your capacity than you believe yourself. I want you to write yourself a thank you note. I want you to recognize all of the great things that you've accomplished in your life. And for a lot of you, you're like, well, I can't even think of anything. And that's absolutely ridiculous. Let's take this moment. There's going to be a short gap between now and the next presentation. Just take a few moments to jot down all of the great things that you've accomplished in your life. Maybe you're a great father, a great mother. You passed chiropractic college. You passed your national boards. You helped Mrs. Jones with her headaches. You created a business. You worked your business through the last recession. You've survived. You have kids. Whatever it is that you've done, the service that you've provided the world, let's take a moment and recognize you. And let's remember that all of those accomplishments, they were not by accident. Nobody achieves success just accidentally. Like, well, I just woke up and I don't know what happened, but I formed this $1 million business. It takes hard work, it takes perseverance, and it takes qualities, special qualities of an individual. And I want you to recognize and remember that you have those. No matter what your situation right now, you have the ability to build this business back bigger and better than it ever was, because we are all bound together and united on a principle. And the principle is true. And as long as we're helping others, we're going to be fine. What I'm suggesting to you is not a modification at all in your philosophy, science, or your art, but in a modification in your mindset and your thought process around the way that we communicate this thing, chiropractic, and maybe the way that we transact business going forward after the pandemic. If we make these changes and we make successful adaptations, remember that every successful adaptation lends to constructive survival values, which is a unit of evolution. So now here we are at a period of evolution or revolution. And I have a feeling we might be seeing both going forward. But my desire for you is that your practice and your business will evolve with this to even greater heights than you could ever imagine. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your support of Sherman College, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your Lyceum experience.